Gunslinger versus the Outlaw. His hands were covered in sweat and dirt. The smell of leather and gunpowder filled the air. The sun baked his skin, positioned directly in the middle of the sky. It was so intense that the light reflecting off the brown sand under his boots was blinding. He slowly tilts his head up to look under the brim of his hat at his opponent roughly 15 paces ahead of him, glaring at him with the same dangerous look in his eye, that wily glare of someone who isn't afraid of death. His breathing is shallow and slow. He watches the man's hands. The slightest twitch and the gunslinger is hardwired to pull out his revolver on instinct and knows exactly where to aim. He's done this before. He's murdered people. He's lost blood. He's wasted bullets and even missed. But today, he's as sharp as ever, having honed his skills the past few weeks in preparation for this. The only thing at stake was his pride. He was no coward. The only thing he feared was his father, and that old man was the baddest of the bad. He was dead now, killed by a man in a fistfight turned deadly. When they were tired of using their fists, they used guns. The man who was now facing the gunslinger, this outlaw, in this very street duel, was the same man who put a bullet in his father in that fight. Muscle memory took over. After what seemed like hours, with his clammy hands resting at his sides, he pulled and fired. Gunpowder and white smoke erupted from the barrel of his revolver, and light gleamed off the chrome barrel clutched in his powerful right hand. When that white smoke disappeared in the gentle breeze, he saw the outlaw across from him lying on the ground, bleeding and clutching his own pistol in his right hand. The gunslinger was satisfied, having proven himself, but his opponent wasn't done. He waited with his eyes closed until the gunslinger turned his back. The next thing he felt was a burning sensation that went through his back and out of his chest. He slowly turned to his downed opponent and cursed his own arrogance. "This has nothing to do with you," the cowardly outlaw sputtered, struggling to breathe. "The fight between me and your old man was between me and your old man." "You shot him down in cold blood," the gunslinger gasped, staggering towards his enemy. "Just like me. You shot him in the back." The dying outlaw spat blood and wheezed, trying to control the pain enough to force a chuckle. "You and your pa had one thing in common. You both forgot the biggest rule in any fight." "And what is that?" the gunslinger asked defiantly, realizing now that he was losing blood at an alarming rate. His clothes were now drenched and sticking to his body. The metallic stench of blood permeated in the desert heat. "The rule he should have taught you," he said to the gunslinger as both men's lives began to fade simultaneously. "Never walk away from a fight you started. If you don't finish it, you're finished." The two men, having shot each other dead, lay side by side in the street. The undertakers ran forth and dragged the men off and began to prepare them for burial. On the gunslinger's tombstone, his epitaph read, "Finished the fight his father started." And on the other man's tombstone, the outlaw, it read, "Shot a father and the son in the back." Ironically, the two men who had become sworn enemies over the murder of the gunslinger's father had been buried side by side. The sun goes down on these two rivals. Their legacy is etched in their grave markers for all to see, and they leave behind a moral for others who cannot forgive their enemies. When pursuing vengeance, dig two graves.